you make me a
In
cup of
just over
tea?
an hour from now, the government is expected to announce new financial measures to help the economy through the coronavirus outbreak. We'll be live in Downing Street, where the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, will be giving the details of that announcement a little later.
Mid-April, they believe that, coupled with quickly discharging patients from hospital, will free up 30,000 beds out of a capacity of 100,000. That will also help relieve some of the pressure on intensive care, routine treatment patients.
First, we must stop the disease spreading to a point where it overwhelms our NHS. And every country in the world has the same problem. This is a disease that is so dangerous and so infectious that without drastic measures to check its progress, it would overwhelm any health system in the world. And I hugely in the people that we all rely on. And again, I want to thank all our public servants for what they are already doing. Ultimately, to beat this crisis, we will need a combination of better science, technology, medicine, data, government, operations, economic support, learning from other countries.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Good afternoon, everybody. The coronavirus pandemic is a public health emergency, but it is also an economic emergency. We have never in peacetime faced an economic fight like this one. I know that people are deeply worried. I know that people's anxiety about the disease itself is matched only by their anxiety about their livelihoods. Last week, I set out an initial economic response in the budget. I promised to do whatever it takes to support our economy through this crisis, and that if the situation changed, I would not hesitate to take...
Good morning. I think we're all starting to get our head round the new normal. Actually, this is the first morning where I haven't woken up and remembered and felt a bit frightened and sick. I've woken up and thought, okay, what are we going to do today? I had a really interesting conversation with my children yesterday, and I thought it was really important to point out to them that they're living through history. You know, at school they study things like the plagues and the war, and we ask, you know, older people what they remember, and it was kind of putting a positive spin on it, that this is something momentous, this is something historical, and this will go down in history. Hopefully it won't happen again for a very long time. It may last a while, but hopefully it won't happen again. You know, we've had things in the past like measles and things, diphtheria. We've been watching Call the Midwife. There's all sorts of things in there, and I'm, you know, sure they were just as bad in their time. But I think it's really important for the children to know that they're living through history, they're making history. You know, their children and their grandchildren are going to say, you know, Grandad, what did you do in the coronavirus? You know, what was it like being a child? And they hopefully can say it was scary, but it was exciting, and then it was an adventure, and we did things we didn't normally do every day, like snail racing and I don't know, all sorts of things. So I hope we're making good, interesting memories. And also, because they're at home, I'm going to encourage them to write a diary each of their perspective, because I think that's something in the future will be interesting to them and their families, and possibly everybody. You know, when people do look back on this. And healthcare workers, well, they're going to be the heroes, aren't they? They're going to be the ones that we thank in years to come. You know, as we thank now people who fought in the world wars. In years to come, we're going to thank healthcare workers who put themselves on the front line to look after people put themselves at risk, and through the stress and fear and everything else that they must be going through.
London is a magnet. It draws people to it. But no people means no passengers. Awful. I've been driving a cab 20 years and this is the worst period I've ever seen. We tried, definitely. We get through today, but also an update from Morrison's, which is, where are they in the sort of list of supermarkets?
Well, they're number 4, they're the 4th biggest supermarket in the UK. They've just released some results in the last sort of 5-10 minutes, and they're telling us that the last few weeks sales have been up by 5%. That's not linked directly to the last few days, just the last few weeks, but that is a big increase, and they think it is linked to the coronavirus. More importantly, they've given a bit of detail of how their employees and their suppliers are being protected. So they told us this morning there will be a pay guarantee for
Okay. We already are in isolation. Where did the coronavirus come from? It was from Wuhan, and then he's saying isolate for 10 years. They're so sweet, aren't they? I can't wait to see little chicks in there.
Pardon?
Have you got me and Ellen in?
I've got you. Ellen's on the left and you're on the upper right, and then I'm little on the bottom.
Let's think first about schools. Very clear announcement is coming on that. The Education Secretary will be in the House of Commons at the same time as Boris Johnson stands up here. We already know that schools in Scotland and Wales will close by the end of the week, so very likely the same thing will happen. But it's not just as easy as all of that. We've known all along they'd be reluctant to do this because of the knock-on effect for the workforce. So if you just think about all those children having to be looked after at home, they still need workers, not just health workers, but you need police, you need food manufacturers, those people helping in supermarkets. All of those staff still need to be able to get to work. So I think what they're trying to do is to work out how they deal with that and how there can still be some kind of provision for the children of key workers who are going to have to keep going to make sure everyone has what they need.
Awaiting today's news conference, and they're talking about school closures, which is no great surprise. I feel really fearful for some children's lives, and partly because I remember what it was like being a single mum and how hard it was and how stressed I was and how I would sometimes count the minutes until they went to school just to get a break. To be locked in a house for potentially weeks with any children, but especially those that might have additional needs like ADHD or anything else, is going to be horrendous. And I suspect there's going to be, I don't know, I hate to say it, but a death toll of children, women, maybe even men, from domestic abuse and violence.
In Cardiff. And let's talk to our correspondent Charlotte Rose, who's here with me in the studio.
Unbelievable, really. Unbelievable that this is happening.
Families around the country are going to be asking questions about what happened.
So far, the Prime Minister's described the measures as extreme, but he said yesterday we may have to go further. So I think some people are expecting that possibility, maybe not today.
They wonder why people were panic buying.
They may have to go further. For example,
sorry, I'm talking to myself.
People have been told not to go to pubs and restaurants and theatres.
The people panic buying. People panic buying.
I think, you can see on public transport.
They wonder why people were panic buying. It's because people assumed what was going to happen.
So I think they may feel they have to go a little bit further with all of that, but it's not something they have said they're going to do today, but they've said all along that everything is under review, that certain measures are going to have to be taken. It's all about the timing of when you press the button to give it the most effect. and that's why with schools,
God, let's hope you get it
felt
right,
wasn't
Boris.
necessary a couple of weeks ago, partly because
Food item, as Sarah Corkin now reports.
Queues outside Tesco in Gillingham this morning. All supermarkets have seen heightened demand for products both in-store and online. Retailers have now set limits on products like pasta, tissues and hand sanitisers to curb stockpiling. Sainsbury's and Asda have both said shoppers will only be able to buy 3 of any particular food item. And going forward, priority will be given to the over 70s and the...
Which is when the festival goers would have had to pay the outstanding balance on their tickets. Those who've already paid their £50 deposit will have it rolled over until next year.
It is also clear that schools are increasingly finding it more difficult to continue as normal, as illness and self-isolation impacts on staffing levels and pupil attendance. I want to provide parents, students and staff with the certainty that they need. After schools shut their gates on Friday afternoon, they will remain closed until further notice. This will be for all children, except to those of key workers and where children...
Schools closed from Friday. Indefinitely. Don't know when you'll go back.
For this small number of children
Never.
to continue.
Well, you are going to go back at some point,
But asking
I hope.
others to stay away
No, never.
will just go towards
You'd miss it if
helping
you
us
didn't go
slow
back at all.
the spread of this virus. Examples of these key workers include NHS staff, police and delivery drivers who need to be able to go to work. Vulnerable children include those who have a social worker and
they
those
worry
with
me.
educational, health and
Oh,
care
good. So they're
plans.
still going to go to school.
Looking after these children
Vulnerable
will
children.
enable schools to support the country through this incredibly and extremely challenging...
people who aren't taking the advice.
So schools are shut from Friday. Hetty seemed quite pleased about that. I think she's the one that was pleased about not going to school, although I feel she will miss her friends in a while. However, I think Benji will miss school more as he likes going to school. So I think it's important that we keep some kind of structure. And they are looking after vulnerable children, so that's a relief.
Kept in a way that we don't breach it.
This is going to be the new
So when we
norm for a little while.
We're actually putting lots of people at risk. We're putting those sickest patients at risk.
I think every time we have a press conference, you know, it makes you a little bit anxious because you don't know what's going to be said next. But I think it's also really important to watch them. I'm surprised the amount of people that aren't watching to find out how their lives are going to be massively affected. You think everybody would be watching it, but clearly they're not.
Of course, people must take their own decisions, and I'm a believer, as I say.
They should take their own decisions, Boris, but you're in charge.
No doubt that these are very, very...
So I have thought of a few benefits of being in self-isolation. One, sorry, I have got a sweet in my mouth. Ridiculously big sweet. One is I don't have to wear a bra. And the other one is I don't have to wear shoes, so they're going to last longer and not wear out. And the third one is that I don't actually have to go to bed because I don't have to get up and go to work. So there is bright side to everything. And if I do wake up in the night, which I do quite a lot, I can come downstairs and watch telly and have some quiet time, which I don't have anymore in a day because the children are at home. Always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the bright side of life. Do-do, 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 do-do. Matthew very cleverly ordered sweets. He stockpiled sweets.
I know we're saying schools are closed, but the staff are going to be there for what are being deemed key workers or children with special needs. Now, what is your understanding of who will be allowed to have their children in school?
Well, that's something which I'm not totally sure about, because you see, we have children who are vulnerable and yet they don't hit one of the thresholds.
Tell me who that. Give us an example of what that might. What kind of people are you talking about?
Say, for example, we have a child where domestic violence is suspected, and we've made referrals, and so far they've said, well, it's not a child in need yet, or it's not that we don't think it's reached that level, but we're unsure, we're worried.
And it's been addressed. So you pass on your concerns, say to social services.
Yes.
So it's in that sort of grey area.
Yes.
People have so much confusion about what they're told by Boris, and I think that's generally because he's confused. I think it's just such an unknown. People are thinking on their feet, as it were. I think there's a lot of things being brought up about vulnerable children, which was my massive concern. And I think everything I watch makes me so grateful for how I am in all this. I think it couldn't be better for us as a family. It breaks my heart, and I can really identify with people in other situations. Just listening to that lady talking about if you've got a child with a special need and you're stuck at home and you don't have respite, you're a single mum and you're stuck at home with the children. If you've got young children, if you've got teenagers, how do you stop them going out and know it? How do you know where they are? If you're stuck in a small flat or a damp house or in an abusive relationship, or a child that their only escape is school, and now they have to stay at home in a dangerous situation and are fearful, all that shit breaks my heart.
Teachers across the south are putting measures in place for pupils to learn from home after the Prime Minister announced yesterday that schools will shut from tomorrow.
And here I am in a nice house, nice garden, the kids are a good age. They're not too old, they're not too young. I've got the most amazing husband in the world that I couldn't even think of anybody better than him to be stuck with. I've got technology so I can contact my friends. I've got food. I've got toilet roll. I've got the ability to think round a problem. So if I ran out of toilet roll, I could probably survive. I've got the ability to make meals out of random stuff in my cupboards that's probably at the back and been there for years. I've got the ability to go in my garden and pick nettles and make nettle soup and collect wild garlic if I need to. I've got the ability to think of creative things to help my children be inspired and learn. I've got resources in my house. I've got a mother who's a teacher and has dropped off stuff for the kids to do. I've got a son who doesn't live with me, who can bring us things because he's not in isolation.
A medical student from West Sussex who's been diagnosed with coronavirus is urging governments not to
And I don't have to worry about paying my mortgage because Matthew can work from home. We will have less money because I'm not working, but we will survive. We're not living in fear of so many things that other people are right now, and that makes me really grateful, but also just makes me think that we really need to think about how to get people through this and how to help on the other side in our own ways.
Schools across the UK will close from tomorrow. The government has said only the most vulnerable children and those whose parents are key workers will still be able to attend school.
Now, decisions are due to be made about exams in Scotland and Northern Ireland soon.
Meanwhile, ministers will outline details of new emergency powers which could be used to tackle the threat of the virus.
Do you know what type of knots they are?
One of them. That's a figure of 8. That's
Do you know what would be a really good idea,
knot.
Benji?
That's another figure of 8 knots. They're my favourite now.
We could
Here's another one which I forgot. There's another one which I forgot. Which fishermen use to tie their boat.
Do you know what would be really
Yeah.
Right, you've got a stone, I need to make some glue. And then we need some paint.
Here we go. So right leg to the side, out, in, again, out, close.
Have you had fun this morning? Did you learn how to tie knots? And how to make a skirt? You did super good this morning.
Thank you.
So today's been a good day, I think. I think actually today the children have settled in far more to doing things at home, and we've done loads of sewing, which was really enjoyable. And Benji's discovered Ladybird books and is learning how to tie knots. And Hetty, what's Hetty done? Hetty's done lots of paper mache and made a very nice skirt that we did our ballet in. And now we're going to play a maths game.
Money, is that right?
What's it gone up to?
35. Hasn't gone up any more.
How's it going, Mum?
It's not very high. 35?
Yeah.
I've got a low temperature.
I think we all know it's serious, and I think we
Bit
really
weird.
need to do something positive. I think the talk of
That's our high-tech thermometer.
we need to say we're going to save loved ones.
From home, and millions more wondering how safe their jobs are, and we're looking at your rights when it comes to pay. Good morning in sport, going ahead.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, how's that?
So this is our nutritious, healthy breakfast with porridge, honey, frozen berries and cinnamon.
No, Mum. Wait, which one's mine?
Doesn't matter.
Any, mini, money, mo, catch it.
We could do somebody who's got the flowers on the bottom has a challenge. Daddy, what can the challenge be? No scraping them though. No looking, cheating. We'll think of a challenge.
Yeah,
Do you know?
I don't know now.
Do you know
buy
which
Long
ones?
Life?
Cough, cough, wash, wash, cough, cough, wash, wash. Isolate.
It's Corona time. Corona. Corona time. Corona time. Oh yeah. Corona time.
Benji's school uniform today. His coronavirus t-shirt.
Aww.
The snail's alright.
Yeah, I don't know which one.
Art project on the window.
40 tube stations in London have now closed, and a reduced rail service will be running from tomorrow. More than a third of the UK's confirmed coronavirus cases, over 900, are in the capital. 20,000 military personnel have been put on standby to support public services if required. Prime Minister said work.
Do you have a horrible feeling this is going to go on for far longer than people think? I don't say it out loud, and I don't say it to my children, and I don't say it too often at all because I don't want to think about it, and I'm really hoping that it's only going to be a few months. But I do think there's going to be permanent changes, and I do think it's going to rear its head again.
And Italy shows that on average people will spend 8 days in hospital. If they end up on a ventilator, that doubles to 16 days. Another challenge is that the number of cases can come quickly if the steps being taken do not manage to suppress the virus. As many as half can come in 2 or 3 weeks. So the NHS is trying to free up beds. In England, there are around 100...
As the death toll in the UK rises to 137, scientists tell the government that the risks and benefits of further drastic actions to contain the coronavirus need to be properly weighed out.
New York City in a time of virus, deserted by tourists and workers alike. This buzzing metropolis is normally clogged with cars and vans, and with 24 power plants mainly burning fossil fuels, New York has some of the dirtiest air in the US. But this week, as people have responded to the coronavirus by working from home, traffic across New York has fallen dramatically, and scientists are seeing a similar drop in levels of air pollutants.
Last weekend was the cleanest I have ever seen the air around New York. Now, some of that is driven by meteorology, so the weather, how still the air is, has a big effect, but it's still the cleanest we have ever seen in the city.
The latest information from New York is an echo of what researchers have also found in China and northern Italy as the virus has tightened its grip. Satellite images track falling levels of nitrogen dioxide. Mostly produced from car engines, this chemical threatens our health and is also a powerful greenhouse gas. These rapid declines will likely continue for the duration of the pandemic, with scientists predicting that 2020 could see the smallest growth in carbon in the atmosphere since the global financial crash in 2008.
Well, there you go. That's something good to come out of it.
When governments splurge cash,
including Hollywood celebrities, and after appearing with his donkeys earlier this week, Arnold Schwarzenegger is back with this.
Here I am at home, taking a jacuzzi, smoking a little stogie. I just finished a bike ride and a little bit of workout, and I just,
Her Majesty says, as Philip and I arrive in Windsor today, we know that many individuals and families across the UK and around the world are entering a period of great concern and anxiety. She goes on, we're all being advised to change our normal routines and regular patterns of life for the greater good of the communities we live in, and in particular to protect the most vulnerable within them. At times such as these, she goes on, I'm reminded that our nation's history has been forged by people and communities coming together to work as one, concentrating our combined efforts with a focus on the common goal. We are enormously thankful for the expertise and commitment of our scientists, medical practitioners and emergency individuals and public services, but now more than at any time in our recent past, we all have a vitally important part to play as individuals today and in the coming days, weeks and months. And she concludes, many of us will need to find new ways of staying in touch with each other and making sure that loved ones are safe. I am certain that we are up to that challenge. You can be assured that my family and I stand ready to play our part. And the Queen signs that, Elizabeth R. So that is a message from Her Majesty the Queen that's just come from Buckingham Palace. Now, the Chief Medical Officer for England.
Hetty's life hack.
Treatments for it, they're testing HIV and malaria drugs, and of course in the long term working towards getting a vaccine.
Okay, Nick, stay there because we are of course waiting for Boris Johnson's services and that along with that, everyone has a vitally important part to play as individuals today and in the... So even though there has been a reduced service on the public transport network, lots of people ask, I mean, I think what they're particularly worried about, we heard Jeremy Corbyn laying that out pretty clearly during pharmacists' questions. He's very worried about people's wages of this pandemic.
4:30 and it was 5. What time is it now?
About the kind of help and whether it could be really given more directly to people.
30 minutes past 5. God's sakes.
We know that people will be offered a mortgage holiday.
Can you not tell the time?
We don't have a mortgage. So, we saw today, of course, the Bank of England taking drastic action yet again.
Yes.
But people talking about this incredibly huge momentum.
What I want us to do is to get on top of it. And at the moment, the disease is proceeding in a way that does not seem yet to be responding to our interventions. And I believe that...
Well, why aren't we ramping them up now then?
The measures that we're asking the public to take...
Bumbling buffoon.
Better testing, scientific progress will enable us to get on top of it. within the next 12 weeks and turn the tide. Now, I cannot stand here and tell you that we will have, by the end of June, that we will be on the downward slope. It's possible, but I simply can't say that that's for certain. Of course not. We don't know where we are. We don't know how long this thing.
We don't know where we are. Boris doesn't know where he is.
We will turn the tide.
Who am I? Boris, and I haven't got a bloody clue. You haven't got any enough air to be Boris.
And those are